of national importance. I'll be joined tonight in studio by Odhiambo Koyo, who is the SG National Liberal Party. Most of you are curious, what is that party about? What will he be saying tonight? So, of course, he's here already intentionally to discuss this matter. We'll also be joined by Esther Waringa, who is the CEO, the founder, and the president of the Public Service Governance, commonly known as PSG. According to PSG, and of course, according to Esther, if you have interacted with her, she is of the opinion that the country should do away with the elections altogether. Questions arising of why is it so expensive to have the elections? And also we are looking at the matters now concerning the IEBC in terms of the delay that we're seeing. The last we had a functional IEBC is about 2 years ago. We're looking at about 2 years or 3 thereabout to the next general election in 2027. And we also have a number of things that ought to be done. Voter registration, boundary review, among other things. Now, the question is, why is there a delay? Is it a political tactic? Is it intentional? And what needs to be done? Different fingers now pointing across. There's full-blown blame game in this matter. But there are Kenyans who are not represented in as far as legislation is concerned because, well, if we do not have commissioners, who will conduct the by-election? Thank you very much for creating time. I want to have just a bit of your opening remarks to this matter, because when we did our last general election, you remember the fracas that came with it, in as far as who took the victory home was concerned. There was the concern of the 4 commissioners who, of course, those who were feeling they were not very okay with that, victory, said, well, these guys were strategically put in. So then there's a timeline, even according to the Kriegler report, that we ought to behave as a country. Let me start by your remarks, Odhiambo Koyo, the SG National Liberal Party. Welcome to our studios. What are your opening remarks? And good evening.
Good evening to you. First of all, my name is Omondi Koyo, but I'll also now adopt you.
Did we baptize you?
Yeah, you've now baptized me as Odhiambo. I gladly accept.
Thank you.
Good evening once again. The stalemate we find ourselves in as a country in regards to the reconstitution of IEBC, I can just say it's political bad manners and impunity from the political class who believes that the country cannot move forward unless they okay to do so. Yes, because going back to the year 2022, when we held our general elections,
yes,
you could see there was a serious division in the Electoral Commission that was actually occasioned by very embarrassing situations where you could see the commission split right in the middle, where you could have people who are openly supporting various political factions. Instead of them focusing on serving the country by conducting free, fair, and verifiable general election, they went there. They actually went to the commission to serve selfish factional interest of political leaders. So we are in this mess because of bad political governance and the bad manners from political leaders.
Well, I appreciate your opening remarks, because then I would also be taxed to then prove that it is true these particular commissioners came in to serve those particular interests, because we saw Irene Masit go before the tribunal, kicked out for that matter. The other 3 but according to them, felt it fit to resign. I'll come back to you on that matter, and of course we apologize. You are Omondi Koyo. Thank you for creating time. Let's hear from Esther Waringa, who's the president of the Public Service Governance. Thank you so much for creating time.
Thank you, Anki. Good to see you this evening.
Good to see you.
And already you are breathing Christmas in red.
We are both in the Christmas colors and stuff.
Beautiful. Together we can.
So what is your observation? Do you think there's some political game going on here? Is it another tactic to either delay the elections or pretty much just do something that confuses the nation even more?
I think this is a direct tactic to confuse the nation. And of course, this is something that, Anki, we have experienced since election time, since time immemorial. Remember during Kivuitu's time, what happened again came to Isaac Hassan time, came to again Chebukati's time. I think there has been a problem generally, and as you said when you were introducing this panel, is that probably Kenya must think of what works rather than now on what does not work, because we are looking at a scenario whereby probably breathing shortly a constitutional crisis in the Republic of Kenya that is almost about to be constituted by the IEBC gap. Remember that even right now, we've not had even the delimitation of boundaries. It's already, the time has lapsed already, and actually the IEBC is currently right now supposed to be in praise, because already we have seen candidates starting to come up, but now that negates now the timelines, because IEBC is supposed to be in praise even before the candidates start mushrooming out. But now the candidates are all over left, right, and center. But the question is, where is the body that's going to facilitate elections of this? Right. And that's why for the longest time, as you said, as you were introducing us, I think I visualized and focused on this sometimes back. I tried to think about the electoral process and the challenges that come along with expensive, destructive, tribalistic, highly politicized general elections in Kenya. And I thought about Kenya without elections. And that's why, to a big extent, I have been trying to bring and push the Kenya Bila Uchaguzi bill, because it is possible and we can be able to actualize in the Republic of Kenya the Kenya Bila Uchaguzi bill, which should birth a public service-driven system of government where, Anki, we don't elect the president of the judiciary. She sits in a panel, that is the Judicial Service Commission. She's vetted, she's interviewed, she's appointed. We did not see the Chief Justice campaigning in this country, but today she's the president of the judiciary. How much did she spend vis-a-vis President Ruto, the head of state and government?
Interesting.
How much? What about the economic implication of an election, a general election in the Republic of Kenya? Why don't we vet the head of state and government? Why don't we appoint a governance commission, like we have the Judicial Service Commission, to vet the head of state? Why don't we, at the county level, have the County Public Service Board vet the people who are supposed to be in charge of the counties?
All right.
So we are going that way. If we focus on that, we are going to reduce on budgets. We are going to reduce on destructive politics. We are going to reduce on tribalism, and we will focus the country on public service delivery. But for now, I think the country is a bit confused. And, of course, I was running for the presidency, but I don't want to discuss that right now. But in case an IEBC is not constituted, then automatically time will be birthed for a Kenya Bila Uchaguzi government. And this is the time that I will now convince Kenyans that, yes, we can vet and appoint leaders. Because that is very, very possible. Instead of running for elections, expensive, destructive, then we birth IDPs again, and then the economy. Anki, we are in the process of recovering from general elections 2022, and now we are talking about elections 2027. Come on. That means all the money that taxpayers pay, all the money goes into the cycles of general elections. It's a whole debate, Anki.
And we're going to have that debate right here, right now. And what Esther said, Omondi, is that we are recovering from 2022. The big question would be, have we really recovered? Have you, Omondi, felt a sense of stability in the political space since the swearing in of President William Ruto? Remember that this particular results, had some uproar from the opposition leader then. Raila Odinga is now eyeing the AUC chairmanship. After then, we had some Azimio-led protests. Then we had the Gen Zs. And here we even had the first deputy president impeachment witnessed in this same regime just within 2 years. Now, the question would be, what exactly is happening? Because even as we're speaking, analysts, according to some articles, are now accusing President William Ruto and his party of what they call a state choreographed delay tactic. What does the Liberal Party, or what view do you hold, first as a person and as the Liberal Party? Is it truly President William Ruto's fault at this point in time? Because we also have, matters pending in court, as far as IEBC is concerned.
Thank you. First of all, the situation we find ourselves in as a country, I can say to a large extent, is the making of our leaders, as I had earlier on stated. The country has been flummoxed, and people have always been treated to a lot of deception from the political class, who believes that they have to control each and every sector of our governance. from the 2022 general election, I can tell you the country has not healed yet. And the reason why we find ourselves in this situation is because the law, and in the wisdom of the drafters of our Kenyan Constitution and the enabling laws of the IEBC Amendment Act, clearly stipulates that prior to the expiry date of electoral commissioners who are in office, before they exit, the new commissioners ought to be in office before their final term ends. But because those who control our political system and establishment didn't take it with a lot of seriousness that it deserved, because the former regime of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta ought to have actually recruited IEBC commissioners way long before the IEBC commissioners left office. But because they thought that it is us who are still going to be in office, so they were comfortable. Until us in Azimio lost election. And we find ourselves here because in Kenya there is a serious trust deficit of leaders. Remember, immediately after the Cherera 4 had resigned from office, and the remaining Chebukati 3 also exited office, given that their constitutional mandate and time frame had expired, the ruling Kenya Kwanza government initiated the process of actually putting in place a new selection panel that will bring forth the IEBC commissioners into office.
Right.
But because as political class you never trust those whom you compete against, as in Azimio, we started saying this selection panel is a government-sponsored panel, and we can't trust them going to 2027 general election. That even prompted, if you can remember, if you got a very good recollection of what really transpired after the 2020 election, we had lots of protests as Azimio. And part of our irreducible minimum as Azimio, we dictated to the government of Kenya Kwanza that you must have an IEBC selection panel that is inclusive and that will also be taking care of our interest.
All right.
They gave in, they climbed down from that tower, they agreed, and that is what gave birth to what you call the NADCO. As NADCO team sat at Bomas of Kenya,
Right.
part of the recommendations that they made, that the IEBC selection panelists be expanded from the current 7 to 9. That therefore means that the reconstitution of IEBC was now more inclusive according to the demands and the dictates of Azimio. But because politicians, every time you lose, you must always look someone to blame, the current regime gave in, and currently we've got 2 representatives from Parliamentary Service Commission, one that is coming from majority coalition, and the other one from the minority coalition. The Interreligious Council of Kenya has got 2 representatives.
All right.
One from the Muslim faith and the other one from the Christian faith. The ISPAC has got 1 representative, Law Society of Kenya 1 representative, and then there was political parties liaison committee that was actually given 3 slots. Now, this is now where the rubber meets the road, and this is where all the problems now begin. And I think it will be important so that as we sit here, we try to actually unpack the skeleton in the cabinet. Because if you don't unpack the skeleton that is in the cabinet, then Kenyans may not understand where are we coming from and where are we going.
And that's where I just want you to hold those horses. And when I come back after this break, of course, we'll do the business and the sports news. But I want all the Kenyans who are watching, since they've already heard the tempo, to stick around for that unpacking of the skeleton in the cabinet. What exactly is happening? Where have we come from? Where are we? And what is probably going to happen